So I've decided that it's time to bring back LEGO Star Wars Hot Takes, definitely not as a weekly series again. I definitely don't want to make one of these every week, but I will be making them every now and then because they are pretty fun videos after all. And if you're wondering why I initially stopped doing this series, it was because, well, after a while, all of the hot takes just got pretty boring and everybody just kept on repeating ones that had already been talked about in the past. But it's been months since then, and lots of stuff has happened in the community, and there's been a lot more new sets that have came out, so I think now is a pretty good time to start it back up. So as always, if you want to be featured in the next video whenever I do it, go ahead and comment your hot take down below. This first one comes from Joseph Bubbish, I hope I said your name right. He says, hot take, the Family Guy Stormtrooper helmets are a bigger problem than the clone helmet holes. I'm not saying helmet holes are fine, but the new gen Stormtrooper helmets are an absurd downgrade in every way. And honestly, yes, I can definitely get behind this. To me personally, I actually think they're both pretty much equal in terms of like how big of a problem they are. But again, I can definitely see why you think the new Stormtrooper helmets are a bigger problem than the helmet holes, because one, they are a lot more noticeable than the actual helmet holes because they're the whole helmet and not just a part of the helmet like the clone troopers. And honestly, yeah, they do look a lot worse, but to me at least still I think they're even, just because I like clone troopers more than stormtroopers, and I think that's why people care about the helmet holes more in the first place. But yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. They're both pretty equally bad problems, and if I had to, you know, non-biasly pick one that is worse, I probably would actually go with the stormtroopers. But again, I like clone troopers more, so I kind of care about them equally. This next one comes from Draco X. He says UCS Hoth deserves a remake, either as a true massive scale playset or preferably a proper UCS set that covers Echo Base accurately. And I completely agree with you. Although today in 2024 it would most likely fall under Master Builder series, but I mean Master Builder series and UCS sets go hand in hand. They're just a giant set and we're gonna get either or. But that's off topic. Yes, I do think Assault on Hoth needs to be remade. I mean, I'm pretty sure we all would love it if LEGO actually remade it and did it in the right way and fixed all the mistakes like the Wampa Cave and of course the shield generator. I mean, I think we would all enjoy this, but honestly I don't really see LEGO doing this anytime soon. I personally think that the next MBS set is probably gonna be the Ewok Village. This next one comes from Josh Cherry. He says the Clones vs Droids battle pack, for better or for worse, is like a paid DLC for the Coruscant gunship. The turret and speeder fit inside really well, and it comes with the extra clones you need to fill it. And honestly, I've never thought about this, but I definitely see where you're coming from, because they do go hand in hand pretty well for the reasons that you listed, although I don't think LEGO kind of purposely did this. If the Coruscant Guard gunship was just a normal gunship, then I think they would definitely go hand in hand, and LEGO most likely would have planned for that to happen. And honestly, I really do enjoy when they actually make a big set and a small set to fit together, the best example being the Snowtrooper battle pack and the UCS AT-AT, but I don't think this is the case with the Coruscant Guard gunship and the battle pack, especially since the battle pack is based off of Christophsis. This next one comes from Zach. He says LEGO is selling at a price kids can't afford. And honestly, I mean, with inflation in mind, I think LEGO has always been selling at a price that kids can't afford. That's why kids usually save up for a long time to buy their big LEGO set or their Christmas gift, or they just wait until they're older and can actually afford them. I mean, that's why there's so many adults in this hobby in the first place. But I do understand your base argument is that LEGO is just getting more expensive, and everyone kind of knows that. Not so much the play sets. I mean, there's a few expensive play sets here and there, but mainly the adult 18 plus sets are the ones that are getting the most expensive, especially the recent mini scale sets. I mean, the Tantive is absolutely ridiculous at $80, and the Millennium Falcon, despite being one of my favorite sets from this year, is also pretty overpriced, and same with pretty much all of the diorama sets too. But like I said, those are the 18 plus sets. I do think there are some pretty well priced play sets on shelves right now, for example like the battle pack that I just talked about, and the versus sets like the Mandalorian Fang Fighter versus the TIE Interceptor or the one from Ahsoka. I think those are pretty fairly priced, but there is a problem that like the fairly priced sets do have a pretty large gap between them. I really do miss the days when we would get like $40, $50, $60, $70 starfighters that were all fairly priced and usually good sets, but nowadays I feel like all of the play sets are either up to $30 or starting at $70, and there's no in between. Chris Ramirez says, hot take, I don't get why people want already small ships like the Imperial Shuttle or X-Wing made into mini-scale sets. Now don't get me wrong, I think it would be nice, but I think the mini-scale lines should be only for large capital ships such as an Imperial Star Destroyer, Venator, or even Snoke's Mega Star Destroyer from The Last Jedi. And honestly, Chris, I agree with you. Mini-scale sets or the quote-unquote Starship collection really does only work for bigger ships such as capital ships. I really think the smallest they can go is like the Millennium Falcon, which they just did, or any type of shuttle like the Imperial Shuttle or Krennic Shuttle or Kylo Ren Shuttle. I think those would all work well, but Starfighters would not work well at all. They would just basically be polybags at that point. And every time I run polls about mini-scale sets on my community tab, I always see comments saying that we should get a mini-scale X-Wing X-Wing or a mini-scale Y-Wing, and like you, I don't understand why people would think that's a good idea. It just would not work at all. This next one comes from Penguin69425. He says the 2014 AT-AT is the best LEGO AT-AT that has been made, except the UCS one. And I mean, this is pretty subjective. I would say it's a hot take just because everyone loves the 2020 AT-AT, me included, but the 2014 one is great as well. If you watch my ranking Hoth sets video, I ranked the Playscale AT-ATs at the beginning of the video, and I put the 2014 model in second place just behind the 2020 model, so I can definitely get where you're coming from. I love the 2014 AT-AT, but really the 2021 is the pinnacle of Playscale AT-ATs in my opinion. This next one comes from PPCK6IT. These YouTube handles are kind of ridiculous. Anyways, he says despite the sequels being bad movies, the waves based on them contain some of the best playsets we've ever seen. Now I want to go so far to say some of the absolute best playsets we've ever seen, but the sequels did have some pretty good sets that I think a lot of people ignore. But I mean, it's for obvious reasons. The sequels were terrible movies and nobody wants to collect products from them, but still there were some good sets. I mean, off the top of my head, all of the Resistance X-Wings, including Poe's X-Wing, I think the black and orange model that came out in 2015 was one of the coolest looking X-Wings they've ever made. And there was also some really awesome First Order sets too, like the First Order TIE Fighter, the ATM-6, and the First Order Star Destroyer. So yeah, there were definitely some incredible playsets that came from these movies, but unfortunately they're just always forever going to be looked over. And that's not even against LEGO. I think that's out of LEGO's control. They did the best they could with these sets, and I think they did an incredible job. This is all on Disney for just making crappy movies that no one cares about. Continuing on with the topic of sequels and sequel sets, this next one comes from Earth Ninja. He says, hot take, LEGO should remake the BB-8 Walker set, but have a removable head, so that it can be both the movie scene and a full walker. And as much as I love this, I sadly think it's just too late for LEGO to do that for all the reasons that I just talked about in the last hot take. The First Order AT-ST is honestly one of the coolest looking walkers I've seen in all of Star Wars, and it would have been really awesome if they made a full model that did have a removable head. However, unfortunately, they really just dropped the bag back in 2018, and it's kind of just too late to do anything about it now. CamTV12 said the 501st Battle Pack is overrated, and I have always agreed with this. I'm gonna do my best to not go on a rant here, but yes, I've always thought the 501st Battle Pack and just the 501st Legion in general have always been super overrated, and literally the only reason for this is mainly just because of the scenes of them in the Jedi Temple in Episode 3, and them sort of being the main Legion, I guess, throughout the Clone Wars, with Rex always leading them, and Rex being a main clone trooper and a very fan-favorited clone trooper. But I always just think they're overrated. I mean, blue isn't my favorite color, and I think they just look pretty basic with blue markings. There's so many other cooler Legions to me, like the 41st Elites, the Galactic Marines, of course. I think the 212th and 327th are all better than the 501st. I mean, I get that we got the 212th Battle Pack and the 41st Elite Battle Pack in 2014, and that's what made people want the 501st Battle Pack in 2020, and that's definitely valid, but I don't think it's as crazy as everyone kind of made it out to be. I mean, I don't think it's bad in any way. I mean, 501st Troopers are pretty cool, but they're just not my favorite, and they're not near the top for me like they are for everybody else. I think the 212th Battle Pack's better. I think the 41st Elite Battle Pack is better. I think a Galactic Marines Battle Pack would be better. I think a 327th Battle Pack would be better. I mean, heck, I even think a 91st Recon Corps Battle Pack would be better than the 501st Battle Pack, just because they look cooler than me. 501st Troopers and the 501st Battle Pack are just overrated. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. This next one comes from Andrea Venucci. They say new LEGO Imperial Stormtroopers are better than old ones. Also, we need a Stormtrooper Battle Pack. Now, I do agree with you that we need a Stormtrooper Battle Pack. I don't think that's necessarily a hot take, but I definitely disagree about the newer Stormtroopers being better than the old ones. I mean, like I just talked about with the new Stormtroopers and the clone helmet holes, I think the new Stormtrooper helmets are just pretty much flat out ugly, and I truly do think Stormtrooper helmets peaked in 2014, right before the Rebels ones came out. I have seen some arguments saying that the newer helmets are more accurate because they're bigger than the older ones, and the older ones were too small, and they're definitely bigger than the older ones, and the older ones are a bit too small compared to the helmets in universe, but they didn't just make them bigger to the accurate size, they made them too big, and honestly, I think me and many others would rather them be too small than too big, because when they're too big, they just look goofy. This last one comes from Jack Friedman. He says the 2006 Slave 1 is the best non-UCS Slave 1 LEGO's ever made, and I can see where you're coming from. The 2006 Slave 1 is a great set, but no, I don't think it's the best Slave 1. A lot of people consider the 2019 one to be the best Playscale version, or maybe even the 2010, and yeah, I'm included in that group. The 2006 one is great, but a big factor for me in determining what's quote-unquote best is accuracy, and the 2010 and especially the 2019 one are just more accurate, and I think they're just overall better sets. But hey, you can have your 2006 Slave 1, it is a great set, I just do not think it's the best. Anyways guys, that's gonna do it for this week. Like I said, I don't know when I'm gonna do another one of these, but I will do another one at some point. It's not gonna be weekly, but I will do another one. one. So like I said, if you want to be featured in the next one, make sure to go ahead and leave your hot takes in the comments below, and leave some actual hot takes please, not just your basic LEGO wishes that everyone agrees with, because that's literally the whole reason I stopped this series in the first place, because people just seem to forget what a hot take actually is, or ones that were actual hot takes just kept on getting repeated and I got tired of discussing them. So just try to leave some actual unique hot takes this time. But anyways, if you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to see more of my videos, you can check them on the screen right now.